A tranquil day shattered by roaring gunfire. A peaceful community torn apart by two ruthless killers. A devastated nation bemoaning what could have been avoided. This is what emerged from the brutal mass shooting in Littleton, Colorado that came to be known by just one infamous word: Columbine. On April 20th of 1999, Columbine High School experienced an impactful and detrimental shooting that left 12 students and a teacher dead while injuring many more. Despite Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold displaying alarming behaviors months before their assault, no action was made to prevent the disaster. This has sparked a fiery debate and discussion regarding how law enforcement utterly failed in their responsibility to prepare and respond to the horrific event.
In his early years of life, Eric was described as charismatic and nice. By his junior year in high school, however, Harris was known to be quick to anger and often made threats to others with bombing and shooting remarks. On his private website, he wrote his personal opinions on things that he found annoying. In one of many statements, he wrote how he strongly hated groups of people standing in the middle of hallways and walkways and just standing there, and he threatened to bring sawed-off shotguns to their houses and to blow their snotty heads off. After the shooting, former FBI agent Dwayne Fusilier reviewed Eric's journals and records. As it says in Columbine by Dave Cullen, Fusilier ticked off Eric's personality traits: charming, callous, cunning, manipulative, comically grandiose, and egocentric, with an appalling failure of empathy. It was like reciting the psychopathy checklist. Dylan Klebold, on the other hand, grew up as a shy boy and always became fidgety and anxious when he met new people. In the year up to the shooting, many of Klebold's peers noticed behavioral changes in him, similar to Harris, as Klebold became short-tempered and suicidal, writing concerning poems and threats in his personal journals. As he wrote, "Ignorance is bliss, happiness is ambition, desolation is knowledge, pain is acceptance, death is a reprieve, life is a punishment, others' achievements are tormentations, people are alike, I am different." In the spring of 1999, two high school seniors, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, slaughtered 13 innocent individuals at Columbine High School in a premeditated shooting and bombing attempt, driven by a deep desire for vengeance and to spread hatred and violence. Because of the extremely violent intentions of the two killers, as well as delayed and inadequate police response, they embarked on the tragic massacre which violated the victims' legal and human rights to safety within an educational campus and exposed critical failures in enforcing school safety regulations and police preparation for such events, with responsibility lying squarely on the shoulders of school administrations and local governments. In response, the incident spurred the dual development of more comprehensive school safety policies and police response tactics across states nationwide. Because of the Gun-Free Schools Act of 1994, students only attended school under the knowledge and assumption that schools would enforce that law and it would be a gun-free, safe environment. Therefore, they had the right to be safe from gun violence under the environment because schools publicly prohibited guns and in effect assured that there would be no guns on school campuses. As part of the act, police also received funding to ensure that implementation was made to prevent and protect against gun violence, and thus entrusted them with the responsibility to keep students safe from school shootings, which they failed in doing so. Additionally, the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act of 1974 was a program enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives to prevent violence by juvenile delinquents by keeping violent behaviors in check. Harris and Klebold were already recognized as delinquents due to prior theft and vandalism. Even when they were arrested for breaking into a van and stealing valuables inside, they did not receive any significant punishments from the court and were approved to a diversion counseling program, which was apparently unaware of their prior arrest. Furthermore, Eric was reported to the police by another student for alarming threats on his public website, and a police officer authored a complete report detailing his infractions. The police department never studied or acted upon their responsibility to review reports. As it states in Columbine by Dave Cullen, the affidavit was convincing. It was not acted upon in any way. A plausible explanation for inaction was never provided. Thus, the killers were never enlisted into the program created by the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. Their drastic mental changes were never studied and or regulated, nor did the police investigate the alarming evidence presented in the affidavit, resulting in them becoming out of control.
Eventually, on the fateful spring day of April 20th, 1999, Harris and Klebold stormed into Columbine High armed with a lethal medley of explosives and firearms. They planted 2 propane bombs in the cafeteria, primed to slaughter all 488 students in the cafeteria and become the deadliest terrorist attack in national history. After they failed to detonate, they transitioned to what Harris referred to as the fun part of their plan, an indiscriminate shooting rampage that reaped the lives of 12 innocent students and 1 teacher. Students watched as the school crumbled around them and their classmates' right to safety disappeared in the slaughter. Following multiple 911 calls, the police response was disorganized and marked by uncertainty and confusion. Due to prevailing protocols and unsureness regarding the nature of the event, initial police efforts focused on evacuating students and securing the perimeter, waiting for SWAT teams to arrive. Under the state and local responsibilities for safety measures, Colorado School Safety and Discipline Act of 1996, local forces should have been prepared for all situations, but this vulnerability in fulfilling the responsibility was clearly exposed. Intervention was delayed for an hour, and even when these teams finally arrived, they slowly and cautiously searched the rooms, which led to many injured victims succumbing to their wounds and losing their lives.
Shortly after the shootings, law enforcement was sued by the families of the injured and the dead for inadvertently leading to students' harm. They claimed that law enforcement and school administrations had failed in their responsibility to protect students, which was a just claim. The government and schools were legally bound by the Supreme Court case DeShaney v. Winnebago of 1989. It required the government to protect individuals when the state had a special relationship to the individual, which applies in the case of schools and students. Students are legally required to attend. The 2 murderers left behind a traumatic yet impactful legacy, inspiring change in school safety, police tactics, and violence prevention measures. Following the Columbine shooting, schools started implementing enhanced security measures such as metal detectors and security guards. In states across the nation, a locked door policy began to grow more widespread, where all doors are locked during school hours and only one entrance, screened by a staff member, would allow entry to the school. Aggressors openly displaying their weapons would be barred from entry and unable to harm the students. To limit the ability of juveniles to initiate school shootings, schools ensured that no weapons, especially firearms, would be on campuses, accepting zero-tolerance policies towards violence and suspicious behavior. For example, in Colorado, an anonymous reporting program known as Safe to Tell was established to identify troubling signals like those displayed by the 2 shooters. It allowed students to aid in the protection of their own rights to a safe educational environment. To prepare for further school shootings and ensure that they fulfill their responsibilities, police forces also began revamping their tactics when responding to active shooters. New training programs, such as the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, ALERT, and the Immediate Action Rapid Deployment Tactic, IARD, were implemented to practice quick deployment, to encounter and alleviate situations as swiftly as possible. A crucial distinction between active and passive shooters was made. If a shooter was firing their gun, they were active, and they must be stopped immediately. It was known as the Active Shooter Protocol, released in 2003. There is one objective: neutralize the shooters, stop them or kill them, as stated in Columbine by Dave Cullen. These new protocols have prevented and intervened countless shootings in the years following Columbine, saving the lives of many would-be victims.
ALERT is designed to equip first responders with effective strategies to respond to active attack events.
In conclusion, the tragedy of Columbine has altered educational campuses in the United States forever, not just because of the innocent lives taken, but also serving as a wake-up call regarding vulnerabilities in police intervention tactics and in the grave responsibilities of law enforcement regarding school safety. The haunting legacy of Columbines today still serves as a reminder to society to constantly ensure that the rights of the most vulnerable of us are protected, and to guarantee that the event remains not just the first, but the last cataclysm of its kind.